3 days before the extreme cold apocalypse, my best friend and I were at the antique market. We bought 2 stones. He gained spatial powers, and I gained unparalleled beauty. My best friend hoarded all the city's supplies for herself. But after her space was exposed, she was kidnapped, became the team's human supply depot. Meanwhile, with my peerless beauty, I attracted the admiration of all the team's men, becoming the group's darling. Seeing my friend's miserable fate, I tried to escape with her while the team was on a mission. But unexpectedly, my best friend suddenly stabbed a knife into my heart.
It's all your fault for stealing the beauty power. I should have been the group's darling.
When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day shopping with my best friend.
Ha 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 ha, I actually reincarnated.
My best friend was smug, bragging about her own reincarnation, choosing between the 2 powers. I, unnoticed by her, bit my finger and dripped blood on both stones. The moment the blood soaked in, an endless, vast space appeared in my mind. My appearance also changed drastically at that moment. Reincarnated? Who's choosing just one this time? This life, I want it all. This life, with spatial powers. I won't have to be all sweet and charming like last time. When my best friend finally decided on her power, and bit her finger to bind it, she suddenly discovered the 2 stones were already cracked.
You reincarnated too, didn't you?
My best friend walked over to me in disbelief, constantly pulling my arm and questioning me.
Why didn't you leave one for me? How can you be so selfish?
You're being too dramatic. The apocalypse is coming soon. I don't have time to chat with you here. I pushed my hysterical best friend away, rented a van, and headed to the city's largest agricultural market. Only 3 days left until the apocalypse. Renovating a room is clearly not feasible in time, so I can only stockpile more supplies. I have 2 million on hand, money my parents gave me, to buy a house near the company. Thinking of this, I quickly video called my parents at home.
Xiaoya, weren't you looking at houses? Did you find a layout you liked?
Ignoring my mom's question, I said seriously, Mom, Dad, what I'm about to say might sound unbelievable, but you must believe me. The extreme cold apocalypse is coming in 3 days. I'm on my way to stockpile supplies now. Quickly find a renovation team to install the highest grade insulation system. And you too. Must never trust me, or my friend Lu Rian's words. She's reborn, she killed me in our last life. I spilled everything without a single detail hidden. My parents are the only ones in this world who won't betray me. Though this shattered their understanding of reality. Seeing my serious face, they nodded and agreed.
Xiaoyu. So you're saying Lu Ruyan is also reborn, and we absolutely can't stay anywhere she knows.
Considering our savings, Dad suggested renting a mountain air raid shelter. We'll hire workers to modify it. It's naturally cool in summer, warm in winter. Spacious, perfect for building an apocalypse shelter. Once I confirmed my parents could handle the construction, I hung up. I headed to the market, buying common meats and seafood. 500 pounds of each. Plenty of canned goods and ready-to-eat food too. Fruits and vegetables for 3 people, 2 years worth. Even prepared for harsh conditions. I bought seeds to grow vegetables. Plus basics like oil, salt, soy sauce, vinegar, essential oil and flour by the crate. Fearing phones might fail after the apocalypse, I bought a diesel generator and fuel. And emergency gear like shovels, compasses. Once everything was packed, I carefully stored it all in my space. Then I drove to the hotel my parents chose to meet them. Last life, before the apocalypse, my company sent me on a business trip, trapped by extreme cold, in a hotel as supplies dwindled daily. In despair, a self-proclaimed civilian rescue team saved me. But once happily in their car, I found my best friend kidnapped in the trunk. Then I understood, beauty in the apocalypse is the sharpest double-edged sword. To survive, save my friend, I played the innocent, sweet girl in front of them, enduring their endless groping and teasing. When they let their guard down, I rescued her. Yet all I got was her betrayal. Thinking of this, I cursed my own stupidity bitterly. But this life, I can not only stockpile supplies and stay beautiful alone, but also face the extreme cold apocalypse with my parents. Mom, Dad, I'm back. Emotional, I rushed into their arms. But their looks were strange. Now, with beauty and ability boosts, my appearance is worlds apart, stunning even barefaced. I was reborn to become a supermodel directly. I told my parents everything about seizing opportunities without holding back.
Xiaoya, you did nothing wrong. Being merciful to others is being cruel to yourself.
No matter what you become, you're still our child.
I showed my parents the list of supplies I'd purchased. I asked them to help me check for anything I missed.
Xiaoya, if what you say is true and the city gets snowed in, we should buy some skiing gear and a kayak. After the snow melts, there will definitely be huge waves.
Dad kept talking about his ideas. I quickly took out a notebook and wrote everything down. Until my stomach growled. I realized I hadn't eaten all day. Luckily, there was a barbecue place still open downstairs in the hotel, so I dragged the family downstairs for barbecue. But just as I was happily eating skewers, my phone suddenly received a message from Lu Ruyen.
Chiwei, you don't want your secret exposed, do you? If you don't return my power to me, I'll make everything public. I'll make everything public. In my past life, I was just too jealous and accidentally killed you. I never thought you'd be so shameless, stealing my power. The apocalypse is coming. How will I survive without my power? That's intentional murder.
Then you better start stockpiling supplies early, or else you'll have to jump into an ice hole for winter swimming. That'll kill you fast. I sneered, deleted him, and continued eating barbecue with my parents. After eating, I ordered 200 more skewers to go. But as soon as we got back to the hotel, Mom asked me in confusion.
Chiwei, you're already full. Why did you order so many skewers? Isn't that wasting food?
I didn't answer. I looked around, made sure there were no cameras, and put all the barbecue into my space. My parents watched the skewers disappear, and were instantly shocked speechless. Even though I'd told them before that I had powers, seeing it for real was truly astonishing. Mom, Dad, my spatial power can not only store things, but also keep food fresh. Whatever goes in, comes out exactly the same. All the supplies I stockpiled this afternoon are in the space.
Yeah, this is so practical. This way, we won't have to worry about preservation.
Even with powers, we should keep some supplies outside. In case the powers disappear, we won't lose everything.
I nodded seriously. We really can't rely too much on the space. After all, in this apocalypse, who knows what emergencies might arise. The next day, I went out early to shop, while my parents immediately found a renovation company. They offered a price far above market rate, making them work 24/7 non-stop. Soon, the air raid shelter was re-insulated. Soundproofing and anti-seepage were done at the entrance. Several blast doors were added at the doorway, and a hidden exit was left underneath as an emergency passage. My parents' construction was in full swing, while I went to a sports store. I bought 10 sets each of kayaking and skiing gear, and scooped up all the medicine available at the pharmacy. 1.5 million was squandered down to just 3,000. Then I returned to the hotel, just opening my phone to watch short videos, to relax a bit. But I never expected the first video to be Lu Ruyen. In the video, her hair was messy, her eyes vacant. She tearfully claimed her best friend betrayed her and stole her superpower. She also said she could prophesy that the extreme cold apocalypse would arrive in a day. To prove herself, tomorrow she would live stream to the whole internet, revealing a shocking secret. That idiot Lu Ruyen. The secret must be that I have a superpower. Seems I must go see her. After confirming my space had chainsaws, ropes, everything ready, I immediately called Lu Ruyen. I really shouldn't have taken your power. I've now found a way to strip it away. I'll be at your place in half an hour. You better wait for me. Wait for me to finish you off. I went downstairs, drove straight to the urban village where Lu Ruyen rented. But just as I was about to knock, I suddenly heard Lu Ruyen's voice behind the door.
My best friend stole my spatial power. Now everyone's in the apocalypse, but she alone. Hoarded so many supplies. It's so unfair.
That sweet little Lu Ruyen really wants to make me public enemy number 1. Must shut her up. I knocked. Sudden commotion inside the room. After a moment of silence, Lu Ruyen opened the door.
Chiwei, how'd you get here so fast? Come in.
Lu Ruyen seemed to have forgotten yesterday's threat, smiling brightly as she pulled me inside. But the moment I stepped in, she slammed the door shut and locked it. My body instinctively shuddered. Suddenly I saw a man sitting on the sofa. It's actually the pighead from the rescue team, who imprisoned me and Lu Ruyen in my last life. In my last life, they used the name of rescue to loot supplies from every household, and treated women as breeding tools. I can't believe it, Lu Ruyen actually colluded with these scumbags.
Brother Zhu, you're definitely gonna love my bestie.
You. What you're doing is against the law.
It's the apocalypse already, little lady. We've all been waiting way too long.
Come on out, boys. I'll go first. You can have your turns after.
I dodged to the side and shoved Pighead away hard. Unexpectedly, he got sucked right into my space. I stared blankly at Pighead's corpse inside the space, and froze there in shock. So the space can actually kill without a trace. I originally thought this space could only store dead bodies, but it turns out Even living things thrown in here will end up dead.
You bitch! Where did you take our boss? Brothers, kill her! Avenge our boss!
Watching the thugs swarm at me, I waved my hand and sucked all of them into the space. Lu Rian standing by froze immediately on the spot, too scared to move. She couldn't figure out how I made them disappear. You idiot, Lu Rian. You had such a powerful ability in your last life, but still got captured and turned into a breeding vessel.
Why you? Where did you take them? How can you make people disappear out of thin air?
TCH. I have you to thank for this. If it weren't for you, I never would have been reborn. Gained this amazing ability, and killed them with the space. I pulled the corpses of those men out of the space, and dumped them right in front of Lu Rian.
Chi Yu. Please let me go. I don't want the ability anymore.
I sneered and didn't waste any more words on her. I sucked her and all the corpses right into the space. This ability really is the deadliest killing move in the apocalypse. As long as they don't have guns, I'm invincible. After getting back to the hotel, I got a message from my parents. They said they needed to supervise the construction at the hotel tonight, and wouldn't be coming back. Tomorrow we definitely need to go to the air raid shelter to check the sorted supplies, and make sure we didn't miss anything before it's too late. The next day I checked out, and met my parents at the air raid shelter. The shelter is built into the mountainside, and was originally built as an emergency shelter, and it was heavily reinforced, so it's impossible to destroy from the outside. I didn't hesitate. I drove the van straight into the bunker. Can't leave any clues for outsiders. I took breakfast out from the space and called my parents to eat. Then, I started checking the facilities inside the bunker. The entire bunker runs through the mountain forest. The left side is the living area, kitchen, bathroom, and bedrooms.
The right side is the work area.
It has the mountain surveillance and farming zones. I put some food and water in the storage room. After our family finished the big cleanup, we quietly waited for the apocalypse. 8 p.m. Outside, the temperature suddenly dropped from 3 degrees Celsius to minus 30 degrees Celsius. Many people didn't have time to react and were frozen alive. Then the temperature kept dropping. I was watching the video platform. On Lu Rian's account, a bunch of people couldn't wait to comment under his posts.
Dude, you were so right. What should we do now? My husky says it's too cold and Sonya wants to go back to its Siberian hometown.
If you go out today, you'll turn into a popsicle.
They kept urging Lu Rian to go live, wanting to learn how to survive the apocalypse. But only I know. Lu Rian is in a warm place, asleep forever. Just then, my phone suddenly received a red low temperature alert. The news broadcast also urgently reported the arrival of the cold wave, advising people not to go out unless necessary. Companies and schools announced closures. The worst off were those trapped in cars on highways and trains on railways. Overnight, the entire country was covered in ice and snow. After the blast door was sealed, the bunker became an isolated world. The temperature control was set at 26 degrees Celsius. I sat on the sofa, watching the snowstorm on the monitor. Mom, Dad, it's probably minus 40 degrees Celsius outside now.
The radio just said this cold wave is global. It won't recede anytime soon.
Dad was adjusting the signal. Mom was busy in the kitchen. The smell of pork rib soup drifted out. In the quiet bunker, it was especially clear. I walked to the surveillance screen, switching to the view of the foot of the mountain. The forest was covered in snow. Only a pale white filled the view. The base stations were damaged. Mobile and internet connections were completely cut. The city had lost power and water. The last few posts on social media were all cries for help.
How long can our power last here?
The diesel is enough for a year. If we conserve it, we can make it until next summer. No problem.
I looked at those frozen pleas for help. My heart was calm. In our last life, we were among those pleading too. Waiting for death and despair. Hot soups on the table. 3 home-cooked dishes. Out there now. This stuff could buy a life.
Xiao Ya, eat up. Aunt Wang next door just texted me. Said her heating pipe froze and burst. The room's full of ice.
Mom, don't reply. No one can save anyone now. We can't give away our position.
I know. I just think this disaster is terrifying.
I lowered my head, sipping soup. My stomach felt warm. The supplies in the space will last us a long time. It's only the first day of the apocalypse. Back in the bedroom, I locked the door. Standing before the mirror, I saw. The power made my skin paler than before. My features are more refined too. Gotta hide this face when I go out later. I lay in bed, listening to faint sounds from the vent. Day 3 of the apocalypse. Snow outside's already past the knees. I sat at the monitor, pulled up footage of our old neighborhood complex. Sure enough, the property group chat is blowing up. On screen, messages in the owners group scroll by fast. Someone asking for cold medicine, someone begging for hot water. Once respectable neighbors now curse each other in chat. Over half a loaf of bread.
Xiaoya, good thing we moved out. Heard. They started breaking down doors, looting over there.
Dad, that's human nature. When you're hungry, rules don't matter. I walked into the storage room, piled high with rice and flour. From the space, I took out dozens more crates of water. Filled the shelves to bursting.
Looking at all this, my heart finally settled. Xiaya, should we stock some charcoal?
No need, Mom. We have electric heaters and smokeless coal in the space. It's enough. Mom sighed, kept her head down working. She still can't break the habit of saving. Won't even throw out vegetable wash water, saves it for the toilet. The monitor feed suddenly shook. 2022:12.16-25-33. I saw at the complex gate, a few guys in security uniforms. Were holding axes, bashing at a supermarket's door lock. I turned off the screen. Stopped watching the misery. In this world of -50 degrees, sympathy is the most useless thing. From today, we'll take shifts watching the monitor. Record anyone approaching the mountain base. Dad sat down seriously at the monitor station. I know this is just the beginning. The real test is still ahead. Late at night on the 5th day of the apocalypse, the alarm outside the bunker beeped twice softly. I jolted awake, threw on my coat, and ran to the surveillance room. Dad, we've got a situation.
Look, there are flashlight beams on the mountain path. 3 people are climbing up towards us.
On the monitor, 3 people bundled up like dumplings. Were struggling to move through the deep snow. They had crowbars in their hands, clearly prepared. It seems someone has their eyes on this bunker. I didn't alarm Mom. I took Dad behind the first blast door. I took out 2 electric crossbows from my space. Handed one to Dad.
Xiaoya, are we really going to do this?
Dad, if they dare touch that door, they want our lives. A heavy thud came from outside the door, followed by the screech of crowbars scraping metal.
Boss, this door's too hard. We can't pry it open. Shut up.
This place must have supplies. Put your back into it.
I pressed the intercom switch by the door. This is private property. The entrance is electrified. Leave now if you want to live. The intercom's voice echoed loudly in the silent snowy night. The 3 outside jumped, looking at each other.
Who's there?
Who's talking?
I didn't waste words. I directly pressed the external electromagnetic pulse switch. A sizzling sound crackled through. The men screamed and tumbled into the snowdrift. They ran. Watching those 3
scramble and disappear into the snowy expanse.
I put away the crossbow. The world outside was a frozen wasteland, but the right side of the bunker was lush and green. This was my specially designated experimental area. That evening, Mom used freshly picked lettuce and wagyu from the space to make a barbecue dinner. Mom, Dad, our life here must remain a secret.
Don't worry, we even turned our phones off. No one can reach us.
I took a bite of the tender beef, looking at my parents' content smiles. In this corner forgotten by the world, we had built our own paradise. As long as we hold this place, we win. I put down my chopsticks. Walked to the window, looked at that thick steel door. The final hour before the signal was completely lost. I opened Lu Ruyen's social media account. That woman left trouble for me before she died. The comment section of Lu Ruyen's last video. Tens of thousands of people are asking, who is that friend with the spatial ability? Who is she? Where does she live?
What's wrong?
Lu Ruyen leaked the secret about the superpower. Although she didn't give my exact location, someone is definitely investigating. I switched to long-range surveillance. On the road at the foot of the mountain, I spotted several modified off-road vehicles, parked there, observing the terrain. These aren't ordinary refugees. Their gear looks professional.
Could be the rescue team Lu Ruyen mentioned.
Very likely. Although Zhu is gone, there are still people behind him. I stood up. I took out several infrared sensing landmines from my space. Mom was sitting on the sofa knitting a sweater. Seeing my grim expression, she stopped her work.
Xiaya, what's the matter?
It's nothing, Mom. I'm just going to check the traps outside. I walked out of the living area. Rechecked the locks on every door. Although Lu Ruyen is gone, the trouble she planted is starting to sprout. Since you want to find me, I'll grant your wish. I turned off the lights in the living area. The entire bunker went into combat readiness. Day 7 of the apocalypse. The temperature dropped to -60 degrees. On the surveillance screen, those modified off-road vehicles finally moved. 4 people, wearing white snow camouflage suits, carrying oxygen tanks and breaching tools, slowly advancing along the ridgeline. Dad, these guys have steady steps. Definitely trained.
What they're holding are hydraulic cutters and small explosives. See how, yeah, this blast door is thick, but it's vulnerable to explosives.
Watching the professional equipment on screen, I calculated. If they get close to the main door, the bunker's secrecy will be completely compromised. Dad, you stay in the surveillance room. I'll go deal with them.
No, it's too cold outside. It's too dangerous for you alone.
Don't worry, I have my space. Once I get close, they won't get a chance to fire. I went through a side emergency exit, slipped out. The wind outside cut into my face like a knife. Even wearing the best cold weather gear, I couldn't help but shiver. This damn weather is no place for humans. Using the blizzard as cover, I quietly flanked the four from behind. They were crouched in front of the bunker's main entrance, whispering about the blast point.
Boss, there's definitely a big fish here. Look at this door gap. Not a speck of frost. It's warm inside. Move fast. Blow the door. The people and supplies inside are ours.
I sneered, pulling from my space a suppressed pistol, but I didn't plan to shoot. That would leave bloodstains and scent. Since you want to come in, I'll send you somewhere colder. I held my breath, crawling fast through the snow, less than 5 meters away. Those four were busy placing explosives, completely unaware. Someone was now in the snow behind them. I lunged forward. As they turned their heads, my palm pressed on the leader's shoulder. In you go. With a whoosh, the burly man vanished into thin air. The remaining three froze, their movements halted mid-air.
Where's the boss? How did he disappear?
They instinctively reached for the guns on their backs. But I didn't give them a chance. Moving swiftly, my hand brushed their bodies in turn. Don't rush. I'll send you to reunite. In under 3 seconds, only messy footprints remained in the snow. And a pile of unexploded explosives. I took back the explosives and tools, returning to the monitoring room through the side door. Dad stared at the empty snowfield on the screen, unable to process it for a long moment.
Xiaoya, you put them all in?
Absolute zero in the space. They died instantly the moment they entered. I sat down, took a sip of hot coffee, my hand still trembling slightly. This was my first time truly killing someone, even in the apocalypse.
Yeah, don't be afraid. They tried to harm us first.
Mom, I know. In the apocalypse, mercy to enemies is cruelty to ourselves. I looked at the gradually stiffening corpses in the space, casually tossing them into the deepest trash pile. After dealing with them, life returned to calm. The snowstorm outside grew fiercer. The road at the mountain's foot was completely buried.
Yeah, let's have hot pot today. The lettuce looks good. I'll pick some mushrooms too.
The aroma of the hot pot base filled the room. Steamy mist fogged the glass, making you forget hell was outside. Dad, any news on the radio?
Sai, all bad news. The official shelters can't hold on either. Severe food shortages. They say people are starting to eat tree bark.
Listening to Dad's words, I stared at the tender, juicy beef in my bowl. A strong sense of contrast welled up in my chest. After finishing the meal, our whole family sat down on the sofa to watch a movie we downloaded earlier.
I thought, if only life could stay like this forever. As long as we keep quiet, this is the safest place we can be.
I closed my eyes, soaking in the warm air filling the room. Our supplies in the storage space were still piled as high as a mountain. Enough for us to live comfortably for decades. In my last life, we'd even knelt down to beg others for just half a steamed bun. But in this life, I'm going to make sure Mom and Dad live with more dignity than anyone else. The clock on the wall ticked steadily, 1 second after another. In this frozen world, time seemed to have lost all meaning. On the 15th day of the apocalypse, the alarm light in the bomb shelter suddenly started flashing. I ran over to check it out. It was a problem with the barometric pressure sensor. Dad, the air pressure outside is dropping really fast.
This is bad. It's the sign of an extreme polar storm. Wind speeds could hit over level 12, and the temperature will drop even further.
I looked at the monitor. The originally white, snowy view turned completely pitch black. Gale winds carrying ice crystals slammed into the mountains surrounding the bomb shelter, sending out deep, thunder-like roars. A storm like this can freeze a person into crushed ice in an instant. I walked over to the entrance, and I could feel the thick steel door shivering slightly. A wisp of freezing air seeped in through tiny gaps in the ceiling strip. Ice is already forming around the door crack. Dad, we need to reinforce the seal. We grab thickened sponge pads and sealant to block up every single gap. Even after that, the temperature inside the shelter still kept dropping slowly.
If this storm lasts a whole month, our diesel consumption will double.
We still have plenty of backup fuel in the storage space. If worst comes to worst, I'll just take apart all the wooden furniture in there for firewood. I stared hard at the monitor, even though there was nothing to see on it. This kind of raw natural power is way more terrifying than any armed squad. We have to get through this. The extreme polar storm had raged for 3 days. The snow outside the shelter was already over 3 meters thick, and it even blocked the vent. Dad, the exhaust pressure is way too high. The exhaust outlet outside must be frozen solid.
If the exhaust can't get out, the generator will stall any minute. Without heat, we won't last half a day.
I stared at the steadily climbing red needle on the gauge. But in this storm that can turn a person into an ice statue in seconds, going outside is suicide. Still, I pulled on the thickest polar cold suit we had, and gripped a heating rod tightly in my hand.
Yeah, it's too dangerous. Should we turn off the heating and just use more blankets?
Mom, if the machine stops, the pipes will freeze and burst. Then the shelter is useless. Don't worry, I have my space. I entered the sealed cabin, feeling the vibrations from outside the hatch. The gale was battering the mountain. I took a deep breath. I opened the outermost observation window. It was pitch black outside. Only the harsh sound of ice crystals hitting. I reached out my hand, directly using the storage function of my space. I instantly removed the snow and ice near the air vent. Take it all. Huge patches of snow vanished into the space. The clogged pressure released instantly. The generator's dull roar became light and smooth again. Done. I quickly shut the observation window. My body trembled violently from the extreme cold. The generator returned to normal. The room temperature climbed back to 20 degrees. I collapsed on the sofa, clutching hot water. Felt like my life had returned.
Xiaoya. Listen, there's a voice on this channel.
Help! Is anyone there? We're in Building 3, Tai Nufu Community.
We're out of food.
That's our old neighborhood. Harsh static crackled from the radio, mixed with a man's pleading voice. I remember that voice. It's Director Wang from the top floor. When his family was renovating, they hammered the walls every night. I went to reason with him, and he pointed at my nose, yelling I had no upbringing.
Director Wang was so high and mighty. Now look at him.
Mom, in the apocalypse, there are no directors. Only the dead and the living. I walked to the monitor and pulled up the public surveillance around the community. The image was blurry, but I could see a lot. Windows were shattered, blocking the wind with bed sheets. In this weather, bed sheets are useless. I watched those shadows shivering in the blizzard. Not a ripple in my heart. In my past life, when I was begging for help like that, Director Wang was leading people to steal our last 2 boxes of instant noodles. Dad, turn it off. It's grating. Dad silently cut the power. Silence returned to the room. Only the bubbling sound of the pork rib soup boiling in the pot. The extreme cold storm finally eased a bit. Through the long-range surveillance, I saw a few figures actually appeared at the mountain's foot. These people still haven't given up. God, these guys. They're different from the previous professionals. Their clothes are a mess. Holding wooden clubs and kitchen knives, looking disorganized. Looks like they're survivors from the nearby area.
How did they manage to find this place?
Probably followed our old footprints here. That video Lurian took. It ended up causing trouble after all. The leader is a burly middle-aged man. He blows on his hands as he walks.
Listen up in there. We know you have food. We're all neighbors here. Open the door and help us out.
I pressed the speaker button, and my voice echoed through the valley. No food here, only landmines. Take one more step forward and see what happens.
You bitch. We know you're living a good life here. You hoard all these supplies all by yourself. Aren't you afraid of divine retribution?
While he cursed, he ordered the men behind him. Go pry open the ventilation duct on the side. I didn't kill them straight away. Instead, I pressed the reverse ventilation button. Divine retribution? I am your divine retribution. The huge blower started running. The minus 60-degree cold air, mixed with snow, blasted out the duct towards those men like cannonballs. The fierce cold wind mixed with snow particles knocked those men off their feet instantly onto the snow. They didn't even have time to scream before frost covered their eyebrows and eyelashes.
Hurry up and leave. This woman is crazy.
They scrambled and stumbled all the way down the mountain. One of them ran too fast and dove headfirst into deep snow and couldn't climb out for ages. This is human nature. As long as you're tougher than them, all they'll feel is fear, even though we drove off these intruders. I know this is just the beginning. The temptation of supplies will drive more and more people crazy.
Xiaoya, we need to come up with a plan. Just hiding isn't going to work for much longer.
Dad, I'm going to set up a restricted zone at the mountain pass. I pulled a few steel bars out of my space, and some red paint. Half an hour later, using my space teleportation ability, I got to the only entrance of the mountain path, and set up the steel bars. Hanging on them are the backpacks of those intruders from earlier. Death to trespassers. The red word stood out harshly against the white snow. I also sprinkled a layer of water on the path, which instantly froze into a slippery sheet of ice. With this setup, ordinary survivors can't get up here. I went back into the cave and looked at the blood red warning sign on the monitor. In this lawless age, violence is the only language. The chaos outside has settled for now. To ease the tension of parents, I decided to have a nice dinner. Mom, today we have seafood hot pot with Australian lobster and live abalone.
This shrimp is still alive. Your space is really a treasure.
Mother skillfully handled the steaming hot pot of ingredients. The golden soup base rolled in the middle of the table. It gives off an attractive fresh fragrance. Dad opened a bottle of treasured white wine. Pour us each a little glass.
I used to think this kind of day is very common now. I just know. This is heaven.
As long as we keep it here, there are days like this every day. I put the peeled shrimp into my mother's bowl. Out the window is enough to kill the cold wave. Inside the window is Wynn's home-cooked meal.
Xiao yeah, you eat more. Look at you, these days are thin.
I smiled and laughed, but in the same heart, I was playing again. The shelter's defenses are flawed, although it looks safe now. But as the temperature continues to drop, the real monster extreme cold variant may be about to appear. I take a sip of wine, spicy feeling. Let the whole people spirit a lot of eschatology. 20th day. The storm stopped, but the temperature stabilized at -70 degrees. I stared at the surveillance screen and found the snow. There's some weird scratches. Dad, look at that. They are not human footprints.
It's like some kind of big canine, but the paw prints are too big. At least as big as a wash basin.
It's extremely fast. It's impossible to survive at -70 degrees. Unless he's mutated. I've heard people say it's extremely cold. Can cause some species to mutate. I didn't expect that white shadow to appear so soon. It stopped on a boulder halfway up the mountain. That's one end. A wolf with long white hair. It's bigger than a cow. Eyes braved the faint blue light. He found us. He was smelling the smell. The mutant wolf jumped. It went straight over the rebar I set up. Trap it falls on the ice with claws like hooks. Hold on to the ground. Dad, watch the current value. I pulled the switch on the high voltage grid. Mutant wolf crashes into invisible grid sparks. He screamed and was bounced more than 10 meters away, rolling around in the snow. No, he stood up again. The wolf shook his head. The ferocity in his eyes was even heavier. He didn't attack blindly again. Instead, he began to circle around the shelter. It was quiet in the bomb shelter late at night and I was lying in bed. Suddenly, a sharp screeching sound came from above. It's near the vent. I need to check. That's the sound of claws scraping steel. Creaking. It makes my teeth ache. I grab my flashlight and stun crossbow, and quickly leave the room.
Xiaoya, you heard it too. That beast climbed up top.
It's looking for an entrance. Dad, guard the secondary vent. I'll go to the main duct. I climb the ladder. Through the thick filter screen, I can see a pair of blue eyes moving outside. The mutated wolf is trying to tear the reinforced steel mesh with its claws. Humph, strong teeth. Trying to chew through alloy netting. I don't shoot directly. Instead, from my space, I take out a bottle of high-concentration corrosive agent and splash it through the mesh. A heavy thud is heard outside. Through the monitor, I see the white wolf's front leg, flesh corroded and mangled. It's limping away into the deep mountains. This monster holds a grudge. It will definitely be back.
These things are harder to deal with than people. They don't follow rules.
Looking at the deformed steel mesh, I think to myself, I need to add another physical trap to the vent. Early next morning, while Dad is tuning the radio, he picks up a clear signal.
We have established an underground city in the Southern District, with ample heating and food. All survivors, please gather at our location.
Underground city. Xiaoye. Is it a national rescue operation?
Mom, look at the current disasters. What rescue could build an underground city? This is likely some big conglomerate or private militia.
They gave coordinates near our old company.
Forget them. Forming such an organization now isn't to save people, but to recruit labor and cannon fodder. I turn on the computer, trying to trace the signal. The source is strong, meaning they have large transmitting equipment. Sure enough, they're broadcasting on all channels. Not just us. Probably survivors within 100 miles have all heard it. This is not good news for me. Because people nearby, to get to this city, might start scavenging resources frantically. On the monitor, several trucks loaded with goods are struggling to crawl through the snow, heading towards the southern district. Chaos is about to begin. I turn off the radio, not wanting to hear those tempting promises anymore. To prepare for the possible onslaught, I decide to take stock of my space inventory again. Food for 50 years. Water is also sufficient, but the weapons are still too few and simple. I went deep into the space where I stored things back in my past life from a secret arsenal. I took out a crate of infrared-sensitive explosives and 2 semi-automatic rifles.
Xiaoya, what did you get these?
Dad pulled some strings to get these years ago. Times have changed now, we have to learn how to shoot. I started teaching Dad how to load and aim. Dad was a soldier before, so he picked it up really fast.
This thing is heavy, but it makes me feel secure holding it.
Mom, you need to learn too. What if Dad and I aren't around? You have to be able to protect yourself. Even though Mom was scared, she gritted her teeth and picked up the pistol. Our whole family, on the open ground inside the bomb shelter, did a simple combat drill.
Xiaoye, do we really have to go this far?
Mom, people out there have already gone crazy. To stay alive, they'll do anything. And our family still has meat to eat. That's a sin these days. I helped Mom adjust her grip on the gun. Inside the shelter, the crisp clicking of the empty guns echoed all around. It's the 25th day of the apocalypse. A strange man walked through the wind and snow toward us. He wasn't wearing any professional cold-proof clothing. Instead, he was wrapped in several layers of worn-out cotton blankets, stopping every few steps he took. It's a miracle he hasn't frozen to death yet. When the man reached the blast door, he didn't even try to break it down. Instead, he dropped to his knees with a thud right there in the snow. He was holding a package in his arms, and it was shaking slightly.
That's a child.
The man looked up. His face was already purple from the cold. There's obvious gangrene on his nose and ears. He opened his mouth toward the camera, but no sound came out. He just kept kowtowing desperately.
It's so tragic, Xiaoya. This is just awful.
Mom, this kind of thing is everywhere out there. But if we open the door, the raiders following him will rush right in. When the man got no response from inside, he tremblingly opened the package in his arms. Inside, it really was a little girl 3 or 4 years old. She was already unconscious from the cold.
Please, save my child. I won't go inside. Just take the child. That's all I ask.
I stared at the monitor, my hand resting on the door open button, but couldn't press it for the longest time. I know if I soften my heart this once, this bomb shelter will stop being our safe fortress. I was the one begging like this in my past life. I stared at that man coldly, gradually losing strength in the snow, finally collapsed holding the child at the door. The snowstorm slowly buried the man and the little girl. On the monitor, only a small snow mound remained. Mom sat silently in the corner, clutching tightly. That unfinished sweater. Dad, when the wind dies down, I'll go out and handle the bodies.
Xiaoya, are we being too cruel? After all, it's a child.
Dad, if I had opened the door, we'd be the ones dead in the snow now. I put on the hazmat suit, grabbed the snow shovel, and stepped out the blast door. The cold wind outside pierced through to the bone like needles. I walked to the snow mound and shoveled the snow away. The man's body was frozen solid like stone, but he still shielded the little girl in his arms. I pulled a cloth bundle from his stiff embrace. What is this? No food in the bundle, just a soaked diary. And a crumpled map. A red mark on the map. That's the so-called underground city. The diary's last page said they weren't old people at all. It's a slaughterhouse. Slaughterhouse. I stored the body in the space at the farthest garbage corner to avoid attracting mutants. Back inside, I handed the diary to Dad.
These monsters actually lure survivors there to be food.
Never underestimate humanity in the apocalypse. Day 30. I was checking the power system when the monitor suddenly blared a piercing alarm. Something's approaching. A black dot on the screen. Circling high in the sky. That's no bird. It's an industrial-grade drone, equipped with an infrared thermal imager.
It's the underground city people. They found us.
Most likely. Scanning the mountain's heat distribution. Our vents are camouflaged. But there's still heat leakage. I grabbed the electric crossbow and rushed out the side door. The drone was flying low, its camera aimed right at the blast door. Want to see? I'll give you a show. With a whoosh, the special conductive arrow struck the drone perfectly. Sparks flashed. The drone fell into deep snow like a kite with a cut string. There's a serial number. New World 09. I tossed the wreckage on the table. Dad connected its black box to the computer.
See how you look? This is the data it just transmitted. Our location is already locked.
How long will it take them to get here?
If they have snowmobiles, 2 days at most.
Come on, I was just thinking I got no place to use the landmines I got in the space. To prepare for the incoming attack. I entered my space to get supplies ready, and suddenly I noticed that the spiritual spring in the space has actually changed color. How did the originally clear water turn light purple? I took a sip to test it, and a stream of heat instantly rushed through my whole body. My joints, which had gotten a little stiff from the bitter cold, became extremely flexible, and I could even feel that all 5 of my senses had been multiplied several times over. My strength got stronger. I can even clearly hear the wind blowing outside the wall. What's more, I found out that the control range of the space has also expanded. Before, I had to physically touch an object to store it. Now, as long as it's within 3 meters, I just need to think it, and I can collect it. Look, the can is gone in an instant. I was overjoyed. This means that in a fight, I can just take the enemy's weapons straight away. I can even take the snow right out from under their feet. I stepped out of the space and saw Mom making dinner in the kitchen. Her complexion looks much better than it did the past few days.
Yeah, just now I tried carrying that bag of rice. And I surprisingly didn't feel it was heavy at all.
I didn't tell her about the spiritual spring. Changes like the supernatural ability are better kept known to as few people as possible. I looked out the window. Even though I only see the surveillance feed, I can almost feel a killing aura rising from the foot of the mountain. It is the 32nd day of the apocalypse. Early in the morning, a violent rumbling shook us awake. 3 huge snow tanks are moving in a single column, brutally shoving boulders out of their way as they drive up the mountain.
This is regular army equipment.
Not the regular army. These are the private soldiers of New World. The lead tank stopped right in front of the no trespassing sign I set up. A man in black combat gear climbed out from the top hatch, holding a megaphone.
Everyone inside, listen up. We are from the New World Mutual Aid Association. Hand over all your supplies and your space ability user. We'll spare your lives.
If you want stuff, come get it yourselves. I pressed the button for the first layer of traps. Dad, close your eyes. Boom. A dozen thermite charges, buried under the snow, detonated instantly. Searing white light exploded across the snow. It instantly turned the tracks of the lead tank into scrap metal.
Take cover. They have heavy firepower.
The soldiers inside the tanks panicked and scrambled out. I watched the snow melting in the sweltering heat. My heart doesn't stir in the slightest. This is just an appetizer. The first tank is out of action. The remaining 2 didn't retreat. Instead, they started frantically firing at the entrance of the air raid shelter.
Xiaoyu, the door can't hold much longer.
Don't panic, they're just asking for death. The massive amount of snow up on the mountaintop has already started to loosen. Hold on a little longer, just a little longer. Right as the enemy was about to charge, I used my spatial ability to instantly remove a key supporting rock from the mountaintop. Pull. Rumble. The huge avalanche is like a white tsunami, roaring down the mountainside. Those soldiers didn't even have time to scream before they were instantly swallowed up by tens of thousands of tons of snow. The monitor is completely white, nothing can be seen.
They're all buried.
All of them are buried. Under this kind of pressure, even tanks will get crushed. I put on my coat and get ready to go collect the spoils. There's definitely a lot of good stuff in those tanks. Besides, I need to catch a live one to ask what exactly that underground city is up to.
Xiaoyu, be careful.
Don't worry, Mom, I'm in charge around here now. The first tank is out of action, the remaining 2 didn't retreat. Instead, they started frantically firing at the entrance of the air raid shelter.
Xiaoyu, the door can't hold much longer.
Don't panic, they're just asking for death. Hold on a little longer, just a little longer. Right as the enemy was about to charge, I used my spatial ability and instantly removed a key supporting rock from the mountaintop. Pull. Rumble. The huge avalanche is like a white tsunami roaring down the mountainside. Those soldiers didn't even have time to scream before they were instantly swallowed up by tens of thousands of tons of snow. The monitor is completely white, nothing can be seen.
They're all buried.
All of them are buried. Under this kind of pressure, even tanks will get crushed. I put on my coat and get ready to go collect the spoils. There's definitely a lot of good stuff in those tanks. Besides, I need to catch an alive one to ask what exactly that underground city is up to.
Xiao Yu, be careful.
Don't worry, Mom, I'm in charge around here now. After the heavy snow blocked the mountain. The originally roaring tanks. Now it's a steel coffin buried deep underground. I stepped on the thick snow and activated spatial sensing. Metal reactions within 100 meters clearly entered my mind. Found it. With a thought, deep in the snow, a dull metallic grinding sound came out. A nearly flattened tank wreck appeared on the snow out of thin air, followed by the second, third. Crushed pretty bad. I directly used spatial cutting. Forcibly tore open the tank's top hatch. Inside, besides a few shattered bodies, there were some goodies. High-energy batteries, infrared night vision, even a few crates of unopened military self-heating rations. Take it all. In the gap of the third tank, I found someone still breathing. It was the previous commander, stuck in the driver's seat. His legs were broken, looking at me in terror.
Save me! I'm a high-ranking member of New World. I know the coordinates of the secret warehouse.
I'll find the secret warehouse myself. Now tell me, what the hell is your underground city up to?
They're cultivating Frostborn, using live humans for experiments.
I frowned. So these beasts not only steal resources, but also conduct such inhuman research. Alright, you can go.
Really?
I turned to leave, just as a look of wild joy appeared on his face. I swung back a spatial blade, ending his suffering directly. The trophies brought back came in very handy. Using the high-energy batteries dismantled from the tanks, I expanded the air raid shelter's power system. Now even if the generator stops, the reserve power is enough for 3 months.
The equipment Xiaoya brought back is way better than what we had before.
Dad, install these infrared sensors at the vents. As long as any living thing gets close, the alarm will sound directly in my bedroom. Mom wasn't idle either. Using the thermal insulation materials taken from the space, she added a layer to every room. Dinner was the captured military self-heating hot pot, with fresh fatty beef and tripe added.
Yeah, about the experiment the commander mentioned. We need AIart.
Since they could send a commander personally, it means they've already set their sights on this area. We can't just defend. We need to take the initiative. Clear the surrounding threats. Last time, the world has abandoned me. In this life, I will make the world fear my name. I took a sip of hot soup, mapping out the area in my mind. With the bunker as the center, I headed towards the control room. The snowy plain on the screen was eerily quiet, but I knew a greater storm was brewing.
Day 40 of the apocalypse.
The temperature broke the human historical limit, reaching a shocking -110 degrees. The air itself seemed about to freeze solid. Exhaled breath turned to ice crystals instantly. At this temperature, an ordinary person's lungs would freeze. I stood on the mountaintop, looking at the distant city ruins.
The once bustling streets
Were now nothing but cold steel and concrete. Suddenly, I felt the earth tremble.
No.
Not an earthquake. It was something massive moving. In the distant darkness, a huge shadow slowly emerged. It was a moving fortress, like a small mountain. Massive treads on the bottom, blinding red lights flashing on top. The New World Headquarters mobile base. They actually brought this thing here. Looks like losing those tanks really pissed them off. They're not here to steal supplies. They're here to crush all obstacles. I quickly returned inside the cave. Dad and Mom were already by the screen, faces pale.
Xiaoya, that thing must weigh tens of thousands of tons. Our blast door can't withstand a direct hit from it.
Don't worry. Its size makes it the perfect target. Time to use that. I took a deep breath. My consciousness sank into the space. In a corner of the space lay the secret weapon I'd been saving. 2 miniature tactical nuclear warheads taken from that armory. Since you want to play big, I'll play to the end. With each step the mobile fortress took, the ground shook violently. Using spatial teleportation, I closed the distance. Such a behemoth is invincible on the outside, but its interior must be hollow. Found the entrance. Using spatial perception, I instantly locked onto the fortress's waste outlet at the bottom. A thought, and I vanished. Inside the fortress, it was warm as spring. Armed personnel in black uniforms were everywhere. I moved like a ghost through the shadows. Any soldier I found alone was taken into the space and executed. The lab is there. I saw the so-called frost corpses. Humans trapped in transparent tanks. Skin a sickly bluish purple, eyes vacant. Yet it radiates an astonishing chill.
Once mass production is successful, we will be able to roam freely in temperatures of -100 degrees. Ha!
The speaker is an old man in a white lab coat. Without hesitation, I descend from the sky. Before anyone can react, I leave the 2 nuclear warheads beside the power room's energy furnace. 30 seconds. Goodbye, everyone. I instantly teleport, bursting out of the fortress. Just before the alarm sounds. Panting, I run back to the mountaintop. I turn around. In the distance, a fortress erupts in a blinding white light, followed by a muffled, thunderous boom. A massive fireball rises in the frigid night sky, like a miniature sun, instantly vaporizing the surrounding snow. That symbol of tyranny and cruelty, the mobile fortress, is reduced to ruins within seconds. It's over. Back in the bunker, Mom and Dad hold me tight. The shockwave from the explosion triggers a minor earthquake outside, but our shelter remains solid.
So, can we finally live in peace now?
Mom, as long as we have this home, anywhere is peaceful. I walk to the window, looking outside. Though the cold remains extreme, the oppressive gloom in my heart has completely lifted. The next morning, at the horizon, a faint hint of dawn actually appears. Though the temperature is still extremely low, the storm seems to be weakening. Mom, Dad, come out quick. Look at the sunrise. The 3 of us stand on the snow, watching the golden sunlight spill over the vast white world. The supplies in the space are enough to last us several lifetimes. The heating in the bunker is still ample. Let's go home for breakfast. Haha, I want the noodles you make. Mom, ha ha ha.